Hello, I'm Diane Lowther. Now, when I go into organisations, the complaint that I hear most often is this: I wish they'd told me that 6 months ago. And I hear that from people in lots of different departments, but primarily I hear it from people in IT, in finance and in HR. And usually what they're complaining about is one of their colleagues in an operational department who has just told them about something going on, that if they'd known, they would have given some advice that might have had things turn out differently. So, for example, I can think of a finance manager, tax manager in fact, who said to me that sometimes she would have colleagues in operational departments who would tell her about something that was just about to be completed. And she would say, oh, I wish you'd told me about this earlier, because if I'd known, we could have structured our tax liability in a different way. It might be an HR business partner, and I can think of lots of instances where HR professionals say, oh, I wish I'd known that you had a problem with this member of staff, because we could have done something about this a lot sooner. And if you'd involved me 6 months ago, then we could now be solving the problem instead of just beginning to solve the problem. And also I hear this in IT departments. I hear project and programme managers just totally exasperated because they've suddenly discovered that there's something else going on that might mean that the solution that they're building isn't the right solution after all. So why does all this happen? Well, I think what happens in most organisations is that in many cases they're structured with, for example, an operational department in the middle, or several operational departments, and then all these so-called support services that sit around the outside. So things like HR, finance, IT, maybe legal, maybe purchasing. It depends on the structure of the organisation. And what happens is that most of the people in the support services, the bits that sit around the outside, they're the technical experts. They're the people with the professional specialities. And the people in the operational departments often have a more generalist background. So what you find, and this is a generalisation, but there is some truth to it, what you find is that in the operational departments, you get a predominance of people with extrovert personality types. And in the specialist support services, you get a predominance of people with introverted personality types. And so what happens is that the communications between the central operational departments and the support services are often not as effective as they could be. Partly because you've got different personality styles, but also because you've got people with technical expertise attempting to communicate with people who don't share that expertise. And we all know how difficult it can be when you're on home ground in your specialist subject and you're trying to explain something in layman's terms to someone who doesn't share your technical expertise. It can be very challenging. So one of the things that it's apparent to me that can be really transformative for organisations is equipping the people, not just in the specialist departments, but also in the operational departments, with the skills to communicate across those technical divides. So that what happens then is that if people can communicate effectively, they're more likely to do it more often. And so rather than sitting on a problem and not bothering your HR business partner or your IT specialist or your finance manager because, it's all, maybe it'll just go away if I don't think too hard about it. And instead of ignoring all of that, instead of thinking that maybe I can deal with it myself, the operational manager will be more inclined to go and talk to someone who they think they can have a sensible conversation with about some of these special areas and the technicalities. So I think that for many organisations, they've got a lot of very highly paid and very highly qualified technical experts on their payroll, and they're just not getting the benefit out of those people. But with a little investment in helping people master their communication skills that can bridge those gaps between the operational departments and the technical departments, then I think you can raise the game of everybody involved and start to get a lot more out of the people on your payroll. But it goes deeper than that, because those highly skilled, highly paid professionals are often also highly dissatisfied. Because if frequently you're in a situation where you think, if only I'd known about this 6 months ago, then what that means is that you get the sense that you're not really having the opportunity to contribute the best that you can. That's very frustrating for someone with a lot of technical expertise. If they're seeing things going on in the organisation that they could improve on if they were only consulted, that can be very frustrating. So when it comes to engagement in organisations, often it's the specialist technical departments where the levels of engagement are lower, can indeed be bottom of the heap. And I believe this is because those people are not being used to their full capacity. It's not because they're being difficult, it's not because they're inherently negative or cynical or difficult or anything. It's just the frustration of not actually being able to contribute everything that they could. So there's a number of issues here, and I say one of them is about communication, but the other thing is always about leadership. Because often it comes back to the people at the top and how they fix things up, how they structure the organisation, how they manage the communication, what they think is important. These things will all make a difference. And depending on which bit of the organisation a leader finds themselves in, they may need different types of skills to get the best out of the people that they're working with. So at Brilliant Minds, that's where we come in. What we're most interested in is how do you get the most out of all that brain power on your payroll?